Okay. Well, just start off with, an intro of who you are and your position.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Justy Fuentes. I'm the alderperson of the 26th Ward. I represent 5 neighborhoods: Humboldt Park, Westtown, Logan Square, Hermosa, and Belmont Cragen. Born and raised in Humboldt Park my entire life. I was an educator before becoming the alderperson of the 26th Ward. And I ran for a couple reasons. I ran because I think housing is a human right, because I think when we think about community safety, it doesn't have to mean the mass incarceration of Black and brown people, that we could invest in our communities and provide services in our communities and take care of young people, and that would create safer communities. And I want to make sure that we were taking care of small business and our economic corridors, and that while we're fighting gentrification, we can be pro-economic development, pro-development in our community.
Now, that's absolutely amazing, alderperson. Well, getting into why did you run for the 26th Ward?
Well, I think there's a couple things, right? I was born and raised in this neighborhood. I understand the nuances of what it means to have issues around public safety. I, grew up in a household with 2 parents that suffered from drug addiction and a parent that was in and out of prison my entire life. I know what it means to grow up in a community like Humboldt Park and just feel like the system is not serving working families. After COVID, we suffered a great deal from losing families to the virus, from not having adequate testing centers and access to the vaccine. But we also had homicide rates go up immensely. And we, I believe, needed an older person that understood what it would take to build safe communities, what it would mean to house people with dignity and respect, what it would mean not to criminalize homelessness, but to advocate for them to get the services that they deserve. And so I chose to run out of a necessity. I think if you would have asked me 5 years ago, would I be an elected official? I never had the ambition, right? But I knew that there was a need and that people deserve to have representation by someone who was going to work hard for them. And so I wake up every single day wanting to work real hard for the residents of my ward.
That's absolutely amazing. And, I would say, honestly, here personally, I think you ran an amazing campaign back in 2023.
Thank you.
I think out of all the candidates in the race, you had shown the most passion. You've shown that you grew up here, that you understand the people. And, we need that in elected officials nowadays, where they can understand their constituents and, grow with the people they live with. That's amazing. Going on to our third question. We've seen past leadership here in the ward, right? And so now we're asking, what kind of leadership are you bringing to the ward? And what's your plan overall?
Yeah, well, look, I think there's a huge difference between a politician and a representative. And my office seeks to be a representative of the ward. I tried my best to meet neighbors where they're at, right? I door knock every Tuesday and every Sunday. And people tell me, what are you door knocking for? It's not campaign season yet. I'm like, but that's the point, is the constituents should feel like they have an elected representative that is going to take city services to them, that's going to check in on them, that's going to leverage the political and social will of our office to make sure that working families have whatever they need. And so my office seeks to be a different type of elected representative. The choices that are made with people. And so I have a co-governance model in my office. I have a committee on zoning made up of stakeholders, community partners, and constituents, telling me what zoning changes we should and should not approve, what's good development and what's bad development in our community. We fight gentrification together, collectively. I have a community safety committee that really thinks about where are the areas of instances of violence in our community and what investments do we make in those areas to make it safer. I do that with community organizations and residents. And so the idea is that for the first time in a long time, this community has an elected representative that's going to dedicate themselves to truly governing with people, not just for people.
I'm speechless. I'm honestly speechless. We don't see that a lot in politics. We see people only go and knock doors when they have to get people's votes.
That's right.
And it's so rare. I've seen in your posts that you go out like every week to go knocking doors, and I'm like, I've never seen that in a representative where they actually spend time in the scorching sun outside, super hot, and they're knocking doors. They're getting people's opinions, and I see that every other couple weeks. You host town halls about housing, about all that. And that's really amazing. On to our third question. Name 3 issues that you think isn't talked about enough in our city.
Well, I think, revenue. Revenue is not talked enough about. And when I say revenue, I'm not talking about property taxes. I'm not talking about putting more cameras in our city to give people tickets so that we can increase the amount of money that we get in. Or I'm not talking about increasing fines and fees for things like permits and city stickers. I'm talking about progressive revenue. When we talk about balancing a budget, we talk about providing city services to working families, you always got to ask yourself, well, how are you going to do that? Where's the money coming from? Who is actually paying into the safety net of government to make sure that we are functioning and having a beautiful global city, but a safe city for people that deserve to live here? Well, we got to talk about taxing the rich. We got to talk about what does that mean? Right? I think when we try to pass Bring Chicago Home, there's so many misconceptions about what that was, to the point that we lost the measure on the referendum because people weren't educated about the type of revenue that we needed. We need to talk about, corporate tax. Now, we don't have home rule in the city of Chicago, but we need our state partners to make sure that we're increasing the corporate tax so that corporations are paying their fair share. When we are talking about government, we need to actually discuss equity. Right now, our budget is balanced on the back of working families. Every time you have a budget deficit, say you're increasing property taxes, you're increasing fines and fees, and you're hurting the working class the most. And in some instances, they pay more into our safety net but get out the least. And so what we don't talk enough about is that how are we having true community collaborative conversations around progressive revenue, and how are we going to make it happen in the city of Chicago so that we can actually be the city that we're talking about, the city that's for every single neighbor. We have 77 neighborhoods that represent almost every continent, actually every continent in the globe, right? 77 beautiful, unique neighborhoods that represent the greatness of our city. But we don't often choose to be creative or brave or courageous enough to take the needed steps to protect the very families and make our city great.
That's absolutely amazing. I totally agree with that. We see many times where we have deficits and, being from a working class family, taxes get way too high, bills get too expensive, and it becomes the point where some families are forced to move out of the city. And Chicago is such a diverse and amazing city that it breaks my heart whenever I have to hear about people being forced to move out of areas. I had a project where we talked about how most recently in neighborhoods around Humboldt Park, landlords have been purposely raising prices of their homes, inflating them to kick out their Latino, African American, or Muslim families, and to bring in more, no offense, but more white people into the neighborhood. And we've seen that have forced people to go more south, or to go even to other states like Indiana. It saddens me that people of our race are being forced out of the city, and that's just devastating.
Absolutely.
Go on to question 4. What's your stance on ranked choice voting?
I'm a big supporter of ranked choice voting. I mean, look, there is no reason why elections cost candidates so much money. For example, in the city of Chicago, we don't have ranked choice voting. So if you don't get 50+1 in the first round, here you go into a runoff, having to relaunch an entire campaign just to get the seat. We see what ranked choice voting does. We've seen it in New York for the mayoral race, right? Mamdani taking immediately that sort of first place with a second round. But also ranked choice voting does a beautiful thing in that there can be co-endorsements by candidates where you can run a slate as a progressive and not sort of take votes away from people, but truly allow the best progressive to win. And it's what we've seen with Lander and what we've seen with Mamdani done in New York. And so I am a proponent of ranked choice voting. There was an ordinance introduced into the council. Unfortunately, it was sent to rules. But if taken out of rules, you can guarantee I'm a yes vote.
That's amazing. I work with the Fair Vote of Illinois. I've worked with them, I've talked with them, and ranked choice voting is an idea that's already been in a couple of states. I know Alaska has adopted ranked choice voting, New York City has adopted ranked choice voting, and many local towns have adopted that same thing, and it helps. It builds coalitions. It shows that you don't have to smear campaigns all the way until a victory. And we see that here in Chicago, where sometimes mayoral races get very competitive. I've seen maybe 13 candidates run for mayor, and it ends up being a slaughterhouse of who has the best views.
That's right.
And sometimes we end up getting the wrong people into the final round.
That's right.
So that's an amazing stance. On to question number 5 of this first section. How do you plan to fight back against the current administration? Recently, we've seen ICE show up to our own doorstep. As you know, there was threats of ICE over at the National Puerto Rican Museum just across the street over here. So how do you plan to fight against Trump and his admin?
Well, the only way to do that is to do it through community, grassroots organizing, and a lot of education. The thing that I've been saying the most in what is a very dark time is that we have to remember that we keep us safe. We, the people, right? No one else is going to keep us safe. And so obviously the city of Chicago, we're a welcoming city. We have sanctuary policies. One, we have to hold our city and state and county agencies accountable to making sure that we're following the sanctuary status and that we're not cooperating or working with ICE and not turning over any information that's going to put the lives of our immigrant families at risk for detainment and deportation. But also, we need to educate our folks to know their rights. So we facilitate Know Your Rights training for our business owners, for residents, for our schools, for our educators, for everyday people that just want to keep their neighbors safe. We have a deportation defense collective that when there is a report of ICE and an ICE sighting, we make sure that people are going out, that they're reporting the details so that the individuals that are being taken by ICE are not being lost in the system, that they know that they have the right to an attorney, they have the right to remain silent, and that they have an advocate who could be there to ensure that they're not being abused in any single way. Look, we have to remain clear-minded, we have to remain hopeful, and we have to remain organized in this moment, because the Oval Office, the Trump administration, and Secretary is counting on our disorganization. They are counting on us to be so scared that we don't organize ourselves and protect our families. And so we have to remain clear-headed. Everything that's coming out of the Trump office and everything we see on TV, it's a different topic every single day. He's signing a different executive order. He's demanding another vote on something crazy, right? He is trying to distract us so that we're not organized enough to protect ourselves. And so my role has been, one, to be a fierce advocate, and I'm always going to use my platform to ensure that families know that they have elected officials that care about them, that seek to protect them. But more importantly, I'm going to use the will of our office to organize the people in our city.
That's an amazing, amazing, amazing response. You know, recently, we don't see politicians in the Democratic Party fight back against Trump. We see them either just sit around and do nothing and just wait 4 more years until his administration is over. And we don't need leaders like that anymore. Before, it used to be okay to just vote no on his ideas, but now he's forcing them through without even asking the opinion of Congress, of his constituents, of anyone in this country at all. And we need leaders that are willing to openly fight back. So that's an amazing response. Now, more on some more fun questions, just to kind of get away from that and to go back. Some more fun questions. What's your favorite food?
Oh man, look, I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban, and so I've grown up on Puerto Rican food my whole life. There's nothing like bacalao and vianda for me. So bacalao is codfish, saltfish, with potatoes, right? But like malanga, yaltia, yuca, ñame, right? Like those hardcore, hardy potatoes. And Puerto Ricans, we cook it in oil, bell peppers, onions. Like it's phenomenal. So I truly love that sort of like hearty food. But you know, like on a hot summer day, I'm really good with like a salad. I love to try to stay healthy. I work out, I walk a lot. You know, when you do hard work, you have to do your best to stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, I'm a lover of Puerto Rican food. I'm always going to be.
I feel like I already knew that response. I already knew that response growing up. Well, being a representative of one of the most, Puerto Rican wards here in the city. It's pretty obvious what the response would have been.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So our second question for this portion: any other hobbies other than representing your ward?
Yeah, so I love to read. I try my best to, read a couple books a month. I work out, as I mentioned, I work out every morning. I truly love to run. I love getting like that runner's high in the morning when the sun's still coming up. And then, I just love to like engage in physical activity, whether that's hiking, walking, running. I just really love to like challenge my body. And because my day life requires so much of my mental capacity, that my hobbies have always sort of been like physical.
Yeah, amazing. Honestly, I try my best to keep it fit, but with all the crazy stuff going on, I have to be sitting at my desk. This, typing this, and this. It's amazing. Next question on to this. What's your favorite color?
Oh, it's indigo blue.
Indigo blue.
Yeah, so a little similar to the shirt, just a little deeper, brighter. Yeah, exactly.
My personal favorite is purple. I'm just a big fan of purple for some reason.
Yeah.
Huge purple. Are you a dog or cat person?
I'm a dog person. So I have a dog. His name's Shadow. He's a pocket American bully. I've grown up with dogs my entire life. I would take dogs over cats any day.
Period.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm also a dog person. I have two dogs, one Nala, one Lucky. One of them is an alley dog. I found him in the alley.
Oh,
Took
thank you
him
for
in.
rescuing.
You know, my family's always kind of been like that. I love dogs. Dogs are my whole life, and my mom is allergic to cats, so we can't have cats anywhere.
Well, my wife's allergic to cats.
So, you know. Next question. Are you a night or morning person?
Oh, that's interesting because I really love to work out in the morning. Like, if I don't work out in the morning, it's just not happening. And so I tend to wake up early, but I also stay up really late. And the reason I stay up really late is it takes me a long time to sort of decompress and come down to my day. So I don't go to bed till like midnight or 1 in the morning, but then I wake up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And like for me, it just depends on my mood. If I have something to do, like early in the morning, then yeah, I'm gonna wake up like at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I know usually I wake up like at 4:50 in the morning to go to school every single day. So I'm forced, and then whenever I have to do work, I'm like up until 1:30 a.m. in the morning, just answering emails, making posters.
I love that.
It's amazing. Where's your favorite place to go out?
To go out to eat or go out to engage in activity? What kind of go out?
To engage in activity.
To engage, so I love Top Golf.
I've seen.
I love Top Golf, and so there's this Top Golf location in Schaumburg. I love to spend like an hour just like hitting balls. I don't know. It's therapeutic. It's a lot of fun. It works out your body, right? It requires a lot of focus. And then I really love Humboldt Park. When I want to go for a run in my community, when I want to play baseball, or when I want to play basketball, when I want to take a walk, talk to community, or we have a local beach, right? Like our park offers everything. So I love just being in our park. And I also live like kitty corner across the street, and I grew up right across the street from the park. So the park has been like an important place my entire life.
That's an amazing thing to say. Maybe you know, it's the beach there in the park. We call it El Laguito.
Yeah.
Every summer, me and my grandma and my great grandma would be just walking there. Since we live like a block away from the park itself, we would walk there, grow up. It was just an amazing time to experience. I think that's what makes Humboldt Park such a unique area, because the people there can relate to the park. The park has been there for weddings, it's been there for parties, it's been there for protests, and it's seen the worst and the best of our ward, of our city. And I think that's why, politically, in my opinion, Humboldt Park is the best area. And even though I live in Logan Square, Humboldt Park is the best area in the city. It's so diverse, so unique, and the Puerto Rican parade is just what makes it cherry on top of amusement.
I love it.
Back on to some more serious questions now, into some election questions. Since we know that the midterms are coming up, many are asking if you plan to give any endorsements for any elections around the city.
Yes, I do. We're going to release a round of endorsements soon, but I'm supporting Delia Ramirez for her re-election in Congress, State Representative Lillian Jimenez, Senator Omar Aquino, newly appointed Cook County Commissioner Jessica Vasquez, who's going for her first election. And then I'm also supporting Karina Villa, who I believe is going to stay committed to comptroller. Look, I think it's important to unapologetically support progressive individuals, folks who won't forget about Palestine, folks who will advocate for immigrant families, folks who believe in housing as a human right. At the federal level, people who are going to fight for Medicaid for all in a moment in which the Trump administration is stripping Medicaid away from our families. I think we need to support people who are not going to just coast, stay by the sidelines. We need to support people who are going to be loud, who are going to organize, who are going to take courageous steps to support the most vulnerable. And so I'm proud of the people that I am supporting. Obviously, there's many other seats of people who are running. We're still looking at those elections, and we'll be making some serious decisions soon. But in the immediate, those are the people that I'm supporting.
It looks like you just looked at my endorsement list and just said names I'm going to give out endorsements to.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love that. I love where elected officials from the city endorse candidates that they believe have strong beliefs, strong morals, and that's what we need in the city. We don't need candidates that are just going to be there just for the power and the position, but rather going to be there to do what they were elected to do. We don't see that a lot in Chicago anymore. We see people just running for positions, not talking to nobody for the next 4 years, and then again, come election season, there they are again, saying, "Hey, how are you? Do you remember me?" I'm like, just not anymore.
Yeah.
Here's something. What's something that you accomplished in the ward that you're proud of?
Well, a couple of things. I think that, when I first was elected, we identified a huge affordable housing gap in our ward. We've either have cut ribbons, put shovels to the ground, or having queue over 400 affordable units that people, families are going to be able to live in affordably in our community in a moment in which gentrification is taking over relatively quickly. We housed over 100 individuals in the park that were sleeping and staying in tents. And right now, we have been supporting small businesses on Division Street. We're going to have 3 new small businesses open in the next month. Young entrepreneur individuals that, without the support of our city, it would be very difficult for them to open the doors. And so we're really proud of some of the things we've done. Obviously, it's only been 2 years and a couple of months. We have a lot more work to do, and I'm committed to making sure we do more.
That's absolutely amazing. I love people support our small businesses.
Yeah.
I believe, again, the working class is the backbone of this country. Businesses just like these are the backbone
That's
of our
right.
country, and we need to support as much as possible, not just give money to big corporations
That's right.
that won't give anything back to our people.
I
That's
love it.
absolutely amazing. Well, here now, some other questions, some election questions now in detail. Do you plan to run for re-election, or is it too early to say?
I'm definitely running for re-election. We have a lot more work to do, and I'm committed to making sure that we get it done. Look, the reality is there are a lot of families every single day that got to make difficult decisions on whether they can afford to stay here or not. There are still businesses they look up every single day and don't know if they could keep their doors open. We still have thousands of unhoused residents living in the city of Chicago, and we have to be able to be brave in a moment of financial crisis. I want to make sure that my ward is represented well, and so as long as my constituents will have me, I will represent them.
Destroys my 2 other questions, but I'll still ask them. In the near future, do you plan to run for Congress?
Right now, I'm focused on just being the alderperson.
And I guess in response for them, this next question. In the near future, again, do you plan to run for, let's get in contact. Before this, I talked to many people. I still have a lot of friends here in the ward. I have a lot of friends on other wards as well. And I've mentioned, multiple older people's names, seeing which ones are popular for a certain position. And, around 50-something% of the 12 people that I got, so they would prefer alderperson Jesse Fuentes to be the next mayor of Chicago. Do you ever plan to run for mayor?
Right now, I'm just focused on being the alderperson. Look, I didn't get into elected office because I wanted to figure out and strategically pose myself for achieving higher office. I ran to be the alderperson because that's what the community needed me to do. I believe the community still needs me to be the alderperson, and that's why I'm committed to running for re-election as the alderperson. If at any point this community says that they need me to do something else, then I'll consider that. But for right now, I'm doing what my community needs me to do.
That's an amazing response. We always see people, run for campaigns just to boost themselves up in that political ladder, and I hate it when people do that a lot. It's just amazing. I asked these 3 questions because, they were popular. People was like, ask this, ask that. I was like, okay.
I love it.
2 more questions. I have an extra question, number 7, and one here. Second to last question. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
That's a great question. Me and my wife, we talk about that a lot. We talk about, in 10 years, what is it that we want to see happen? Well, in 10 years, I see myself still doing the work of the people. Right? I've always been a movement person. I've always been an organizer, and that's just not going to stop. I want to make sure that we continue to fight for housing until we can resolve for everyone having a roof over their head. My work is not going to stop, right? Until we can think about safety in a different way that's not mass incarceration, my work is not going to stop. And so in 10 years, obviously, I hope that we are in a much better position than we are now. I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that there's a different person in the Oval Office so that we have a president that represents us well, that is a humanitarian, that dignifies people despite the color of their skin or the zip code that they reside in. And so, in 10 years, I'm just still doing the work.
That's absolutely amazing. It ruins my little plans to run, but 7th question, one I just thought off the top of my head. What's one word that you can use to describe the 26th ward?
Resilient.
Absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Well, it was really amazing talking with you, interviewing you. It's such an honor. Thank you.